Inside Melbourne draft special with thanks to Zurich. Caty Price, alongside me, Clint Stanaway. Caty, you enjoying your break?
Absolutely loving it, but also keen for footy to be back. And I love the draft because there's so much potential and so much hope around.
There is indeed, and one man who gets no break at all is Jason Taylor, Melbourne's National Recruiting Manager. Welcome to the podcast, Jason.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Clint and Caty.
It is a hectic time, no doubt, for you and your team. Over the next, few days, how does it all work?
Yeah, it's been, I suppose, the week just gone, and as we sit here today, it's been pretty hectic in the war room and just working through different scenarios and just making sure we fine-tune the order. And from there, hopefully we can walk away this afternoon with a little bit more confidence that we can have a clear head weekend, if you like, and sleep well. And then on Monday, Simon Goodwin will be back from London on Sunday night, and Monday we're actually going to head up the coast just for the afternoon, have a barbecue and just walk through with Simon and the team and different scenarios that may play out and players that we've identified that might be around our range. So once we've done that, really, it's just about getting there on the Thursday night, and we're going to have to sit there and wait for everyone else to have a pick for 4 hours and then come back the next day.
Until you unearth that gem.
So that'll be an interesting night in itself. So, see if there's any live trading or whatnot.
How firmly are you locked into your order?
As in right now, or
on the night? Is there any, manoeuvring
I think there's
last
some
minute?
flexibility on. You might have a grouping of players that potentially with your later picks, or if you've got picks that are close together. So the example we can use this year with the 23 and 28. Live trading might bring, not live trading, with the bidding system, that might only bring two clubs in between those two picks. So if we know that we can get a certain player through to the second one, that might change your thinking a little bit. But you be a little bit strategic, but you just got to be careful not to outsmart yourself.
So before we talk about this year's talent pool and run through a few prospects or indeed what the club needs, you just mentioned live trading and that'll become a part of the draft this year. How does it work and how will that change the mechanics of draft night?
Yeah, look, it really will be interesting. I'm not sure a lot will go on. The fact that you've been able to trade picks up until this week, and there hasn't been a lot of movement, they might be waiting for the night, potentially. The AFL might have instructed clubs to, if you're going to do a deal, let's do it on the night. But
drama. I
think it's going to be more those clubs that hold multiple picks. I mean, these are just examples that come to mind. Like Adelaide have got 3 or 4 picks inside that 21 range, and there's a St Kilda obviously hold the 4 or something like that. And if Adelaide wanted to get in there, they might offer up 2 or 3 picks. Or I think that's the only scenario that can really happen. Later in the draft, I think if there's potentially a player that you didn't think would get through to a certain point, you might then jump on the phone and offer up a pick this year and a future pick or something to get in and try and get that player. So they're the scenarios that could play out on the night. So it will be interesting, and we'll sit back and watch. And there's a potential chance that we could get involved. We've got 2 picks in the 20 with the 23 and the 28, so that's attractive sometimes when they're close together. And but it being the first year, it really is a bit of an open book.
Do you think it's a good idea?
Yeah, I do. I think it gives more opportunity. I think that, as long as you've got your structures right and your order firm in your mind, and there's certain players that you think that... I think, as that last point I made, is if there's a player that you really have in mind that you think can complement your list, it does give you opportunity, but you're going to have to give up something to get there. So, it gives you those opportunities, so it's not a bad thing.
You've got players sitting in that room feeling so many nerves, a myriad of emotions. How do you feel draft night, or how have you felt draft night? Do you feel pressure?
Yeah, I think you do. I think it's more of anticipation that what you have scenarios that you're pretty clear on in your mind that are the best scenarios for the footy club, and you just hope they come off. And I think most times they do, but there's a lot of anticipation around that. I know the last 2 years that leading into your first selection, and we've been back a bit, that you're like, geez, we're going all right here, like, and then all of a sudden it's like a domino effect, bang, 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 bang. You're like, geez, we're not going real well now. So it gets really close in, and then you just hope for the best. But I'm not a stressor. as such, but you just get nervous for the outcomes, I suppose, of the footy club.
Jason, give us some insight into the process closer to the draft, but also how far out are you scouting these players? Are you looking at all their junior careers? So the class of 2018, when do you start looking at them?
Yeah, so you go to the the under 16 national championships, so back a couple of years, and you first watch them there. So they come together and they play a carnival, normally on the Gold Coast, and from there you'll track them as bottom ages. Whether they're playing in their home states, whether they're playing in the TOC Cup or the Sample, the Waffle, etc. And you see their talents there more than pick the eyes out of their game, if you like. And then when they get into their top age year of their respective competitions, you really start to pick the eyes out of their game, and then you start to put the interview process in place, and you start to place everything, as far as their character and their footy ability and their competitiveness and all that comes together really in that final year. It's over a 3-year period, but it ramps up a bit in their final year.
When it gets now down to the nitty-gritty, what are the things that you're assessing? Because you've mentioned the medicals, psych testing, social media.
Yeah, all that. I think the character piece is critical. I suppose when you've got 44 to 46 players on a list, it's pretty important that they come in with the right values and I suppose the right drive and work ethic that I suppose we covered at this footy club, which is starting to really come together for us. So that piece of it's really important for us. And the medical side of obviously it's got to be ticked off. There's also the psychological reports that are put together for us by Dave Williams, and so we have to go through all that piece. So as you move along, you have your order and it starts to get a bit more fixed, and then there can be things thrown in like, there's an issue here medically and the psych report wasn't that favourable. They're not killer blows, but they're things you've got to take into consideration when you're putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
So many would argue that Melbourne has as complete a list as rival clubs right now as we speak, with thanks to the hard work of you and your team through the year since your arrival. Picks this year, 23, 28, 54, 62, 91. Can you more generically tell the members and supporters what it might be you're looking for this year?
Yeah, I'll throw it in because everyone does, but the best available player. But the reality is that I think that, you're looking, I think we need to continue to think underneath. So we're fairly young in most areas, but we're now starting to get that group in that 23 age bracket. So we think, look underneath our midfield there maybe. And also, I think with the trade period, being able to bring in Stephen May, at Bruce College, Asney, we've shored up some certain areas I reckon that we needed to. So we can be a little bit flexible, I think. So we'll look at a Ranger player and take the best available player in those regions. But I think the midfield initially, I think if we can just start to build underneath that, the likes of Oliver Viney, Brayshaw, Harms, Petrarca, we've got obviously Jonesy, but with Bernie Vince, who I know he played back a little bit, but he's gone out, and so I think we just need to stay there.
How do you rate this year's draft pool?
Yeah, no, it's a good draft. I think most drafts are relatively good. I'm a pretty optimistic person. If you do the work, you'll find them back a bit, but I think the top end's got some real talent in there, and there's a real variety of talent.
The forward line, is that a potential area that you might look at as well with the loss of Jesse Hogan?
Yeah, look, we look at all areas, and I don't want to sound restrictive in the answer to that, but they need to be the quality of player there. So we're not just going to, I suppose, reach on a tall forward if we don't think they're going to be of the quality of AFL level. So if they're there, brilliant, we'll have a look at them, and that comes into our thinking when we're working through it. But I think that, we've brought in Austin Brackey now. He hasn't played footy for 4 years and he's a Category B, but he's got some football background as a junior, and, he's 205 centimetres and he's played some footy forward as a kid. So maybe we just look at that, fresh look at him and see what he can develop into, and then address that in 12, 24 months' time if we need to.
12 months on since last year's draft.
Yep.
How do you rate the work that you and your team did last year. I mean, some sensational pickups, I guess, if you will. One of them, Charlie Spargo, who played finals footy.
Yep.
Bailey Fritches played some great footy also. How do you rate the class of 2017?
Yeah, I mean, good on those boys for putting their best foot forward, and you know, we were really confident with Charlie that, you know, if once he got his body right and started to get the conditioning it for AFL level, that he'd play some footy, because he's a pretty strong, tough kid, and he's got a pretty good athletic package. And Bailey had obviously been exposed to VFL football. We've been tracking Bailey really for a 3 or 4 year period, but he just didn't get that continuity in his body. So we looked to rookie him really in 2015, but he just couldn't get out on the field enough. So probably could have got him a bit cheaper, Clint, if we had rolled the dice back then. But anyway, as it turns out, he's had a really strong year for Caty and set himself up for, you know, we thought he could come in and play some AFL footy. And the other boys, you know, like Harry and Oscar Baker, and you know, I thought they took some really good strides forward for what we expected. And I think the list is in a position now where we don't have to rush players to come in and play straight away. And but you want them, you know, really setting themselves up to compete. That they get a crack at it though.
This year, first pick at 23, we obviously don't have the top 10 picks that we have in previous years. But the thing with the draft is you can always find that diamond in the rough. Yeah. As a recruiter, what do you get more satisfaction out of? Is seeing potentially a top 10 pick go on, or finding that little gem?
Yeah, to keep your job, the top 10s need to probably go on. But you do like the players that you know, I think that you get a good feel for, that you might get it out the back of the draft or as a rookie, and you get a fair bit of satisfaction out of that. But yeah, all of them though. Is
there one in the past then, perhaps down the draft order, or a rookie that you're particularly proud of finding?
Yeah, I've always had a soft spot for Aaron Vandenberg, and you know, he hasn't had much luck in I suppose the past, but he was able to get out there in the latter part of last year, and we can see what he can do when he gets a run at it. Just his competitive instincts, and you know, James Harms also, and you know, he's able to put together a pretty good career so far, and you know, culminated in third in the best and fairest last year. So I was pretty proud for Jim to do that.
You arrived at the club in 2013. You're quoted as saying that the cupboard was quite bare when you did arrive in terms of the midfield. Are you proud of the body of work you've put together and in your time at the club?
Yeah, I think I am. I think in my job, and as we know in footy, AFL, it's such a tough competition that, you never get too happy with your list. I think the minute you're doing that, you're in strife, and we haven't reached the level we need to. And you know, we've tasted finals last year and won a couple, which was fantastic. I think there's a good group of lads. I'm proud of that they're pretty united in the way they work together, and I think that gives us a good starting point at potentially getting to where we want to be, and that's the next great Melbourne team. So it's always ongoing. We're always looking to get better. So you can't sit there and be satisfied, and because there's 17 other teams coming, and you know, the likes of, you know, Carlton will probably get better again, and Brisbane is, you know, a young team coming up, and you take your foot off your pedal for a second, and you're back with the pack, and we've worked too hard to let that happen. So we've just got to keep chipping away at it, mate. So
can I just go back a little further? Your footy story, how did it start, and why recruiting? When and where did the bug bite?
As a little kid, I actually obviously loved me footy. I was never good enough, but I played local footy all the way through, and but I always had a bit of a knack. I just knew every player, even in Western Australia, South Australia, and particularly the VFL back then, and I knew them by trait more than number. So I always loved that side of it, and watching players and how their skill set. So I think it was in me from a young age. And just that love of the game. But yeah, so I think that, so I grew up as a tradesman, so I was in refrigeration and air conditioning, and I was running my own business, and I'd done a bit of assistant coaching at amateur level and VFL, and I wanted to get into recruiting. It's always been the thing I think I had a passion for. So I just applied and got a part-time job at St Kilda, and went on from there and did some hard yards, a salary sacrifice a little bit, and an opportunity came up at Collingwood full time, and
and then we poached you.
Then 5 years later, I was lucky enough to get an opportunity here through when Mark Neild arrived. So
how do you go as someone working in refrigeration? How do you get someone to give you a look in at St Kilda? How did you convince them?
Well, John Beveridge was recruiting manager at the time, and he was my first coach when I was 6 years old, 7 years old, and under 11. So I knew him, and I'm good mates with Luke, his son. So I'm a bit of a stubborn person like that. I didn't want to go through that channel, but I was, Luke encouraged and just said, look, just give him a call. But I ended up sending a letter, and he did give me a trial. So I had to go through a trial the year before I started, and went through all the proper channels like that. But he ended up giving me an opportunity part-time. And then I think you make a bit of your own luck by how much you put into it. So I was doing a lot of cutting vision at night and for him, and then going in where I could during the day, during the week, and I ended up going for his job actually, which I went okay, but I missed out because I was pretty inexperienced, but it was a good experience presenting to the board then, and second year in really, so that was a bit of a dramatic change for me from what I was used to, crawling in roos and whatnot. So that was a good experience, but it kind of just all evolved from there. But it was a lot of hard work.
It's an amazing story, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to keep you cool in this job as well, if I can. Pardon the pun. How much footy do you watch, Jason?
Oh yeah, well I think you average about. We watch a lot, like on Vision as well, like. Yeah. But if you're talking live games, basically mid to late Feb it starts again. So you're working Saturday, Sunday there, and if you average it out, it's say 4 games a weekend, sometimes more, sometimes less, up until say the end of or start of October. And then you pour over Vision, so you can't be everywhere at once throughout the weekend. So you then watch Vision of games or edits of games that you weren't at throughout the country. So it's a hell of a lot, put it that way, Clint.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a big country to keep on top of as well. Maybe a bit of a left field one, but the club's got this wonderful partnership with the Northern Territory. How do you watch areas like that?
Yeah, I mean, they come through the pathway, but we've got their Next Generation Academy, which comes under the Melbourne Academy, which involves our father-sons as well, and Todd Patterson, he runs that. So he also looks after the futures market, but so we're building programs underneath there. So they're kids from 14 and the like coming up through there. So we've got programs in place in the Alice Springs region, for example, which we've got a strong tie in there. So I suppose that's how that evolves. I'm not sure if that answers exactly what you mean, but there's also there's a Northern Territory state. It's a Northern Territory team, but that comes through the 16s and the 18s, and then they filter off into the allies as well.
I think the Tiwi Cup was on just last weekend. There was some incredible talent running around on this dusty footy oval on the Tiwi Islands. There's some extraordinary stories up that way.
Oh, unbelievable, yeah. And I've been there at Tiwi's through the AFL Academy the last 2 years, actually, on their tour in December post the draft. They have a camp that go up there, and amazing place. And we have a guy who does some part-time work for us up in Darwin now, but he's just moved to Gove, which is actually up that way, fair way out. So he's not doing as much for us now, but we've got ties into there that we can, I suppose, word of mouth and attract talent and get us up there and have a look.
Father-sons are always very interesting to watch. Is there anything on our radar, any youngsters running around that we need to know about?
Oh, KB Farmer's probably the closest.
I did hear. That was my next question.
Yeah. So we met with him throughout the year. So he's got, because he's in Western Australia. So we're doing some work behind the scenes there. And
how old's he?
It's infamous 16. Just turned. So, but safe to say the Wizard wants him to come to Melbourne. So
that's good. That's great news.
Play like the old man.
That's a starting point. He's pretty good.
What, give us a little bit of intel? Is there any position? What position does he play?
Oh, I think forward wing. Look, he's been playing in a lower competition at the moment, so we haven't really seen him play a hell of a lot of footy. Terrific. To be fair, because he's just turned 16, so that'll come in the next phase. But we met with him and Dad this year, and he's a really nice young fella.
I get the idea that you're keeping cards close to the chest there. How much are you aware of what other clubs are doing coming in? If we look now back to the draft, do you get intel of where they're looking?
I think you try and, you draw a bit of a line on what might get through to your pick. So and player managers and potentially other people from other clubs might ring you up just to try and get a feel. But you do, I think, for peace of mind in our job, like to get a little bit of an idea. But at the end of the day, you can go crazy trying to do too much of that. So what will be will be. You just got to get your order right. Do you know what I mean? But there's a bit of that goes on.
And you mentioned the coach. You'll be obviously meeting up with him. How much input does he have prior to and even on draft day or night?
I think I've been on record, because transparency is really strong within our footy club, and the conversations with Simon are ongoing all the time. So you don't really need to set aside too much time to get him up to speed on what we're thinking. And he left to go on his holidays, but overseas for work as well. So some month ago or so. But so as I said, we'll get together with him on Monday. But he's already got a bit of an idea of what we're thinking. But we'll run him through the different scenarios, and he'll just support that, which he always has.
Is any of it gut instinct? You do all your homework, tick things on lists and spreadsheets, I imagine. Does any of it come down to just gut feel? Yeah,
I think first thought is a term we use a lot. Quite often you come back to your first thought, and that might be just a piece of play, that you see and you think, geez, that was good. There's a bit of AFL in that. But then, you can really pick the eyes out. And you've got to be careful not to pick the eyes out of them too much, because they all come with their different strengths and weaknesses. And, so I see that first thought is gut instinct a bit, I reckon. So is there? I think there is, yep.
It's a real investment for an entire family in many instances as well, especially interstate families. What's it like sitting down with the families and really sort of crunching the story with them?
Yeah, it's fantastic, part of the job, and you get a real insight to their upbringing, which is really important in how they are shaped as people. And
because you go into their homes, you're meeting mum, dad, brothers, sisters, all that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so where we can, where it's possible, we like to meet mum and dad, and it's it's an important piece really, and you really feel for the families at this time of year, I reckon, as far as the anticipation and what they've been through, the boys, and a lot of them done their year 12 and they're coming into their draft, and you feel for them and the family and what their outcomes might be, but it's a critical piece in what we do, and the influence that mum and dad have. One
family, the Petrarcas. Elvira is famous for the spread she puts on for visitors, for the boys, all the rest of it. Were you treated to a meal at the Petrarcas?
Yeah, no, we actually spoke about this during the year. No, I haven't been.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah. When we went over there, you're saying?
Yeah.
Prior, yeah. No, it didn't work out quite that way. There might have been some food on the table, but it wasn't dinner. But have not been invited since, and I've heard of a few others that have been. So
exactly, we need an invitation for you. Or apparently, it's spectacular.
Or maybe you take the potential draftees, those that you're trying to
for dinner at the Petrarcas.
Yeah, good call.
I like it.
I don't mind that.
Early carbo loading.
That's nothing against Elvira and Tony there, because they're beautiful people.
They are very, very good people. Well, thanks so much for this insight, spectacular insight into what the club is doing, and playing a few cards close to the chest, Caty.
Can you give us any idea? Pick 23.
No.
Some of the names? No. I knew I wasn't going to get anything.
I hope it's a good player, that's all.
It will be, I'm sure. On past results. Definitely.
And just finally, in terms of where this list's at, we've broached it very generally, but you must sit here very excited, looking forward to what 2019 possibly could bring. Yeah,
I think I do. When footy's out of sight, out of mind, like we're all looking forward to it coming back again quickly, and pre-season starts on Monday for the first to 4 year players, and sometimes you get a little bit anxious when they're not around and you don't know how they're going and how they're coming back. But I can sense a real maturity in the group, and you see them coming in and out every now and then. The younger players and some of the older players even that. There's a real maturity and springing the step the way they are, and so that gives some real confidence. But I just know the coaching group are, led by Simon, are just fantastic. Really, there's a real energy about them, and the way they educate the players and the relationships they build is fantastic, and that gives me the most confidence and makes me look forward to what's ahead.
We in the last few years we sort of said, bring on cricket season, and it's like, cricket, come on, please. Bring on the footy. Bring back the footy. Jason Taylor, good luck. I'm sure we speak for all Melbourne people in wishing you and your team all the best, and congratulations on what you've achieved so far.
No worries, mate. And give a shout out to the team with Darren Farrugia, Kelly O'Donnell and Tim Lamb, who's moved into a new role of pro scout and player contract manager, and Todd Patterson and all the scouts throughout the country. We've got a lot of part-time scouts who really do. We don't get these results without them. They're fantastic people, smart people, and and obviously Todd Viney and Josh Marnie. So it's important that they're noted.
Who actually gets the glory on draft day or night with the microphone? Who gets to it?
They don't do it anymore.
Don't they? Oh,
no,
of course.
No. It's typed in.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they've pulled that off us. Our only last chance of getting any glory, mate. It's gone.
That's why you come on Inside Melbourne.
That's right.
Exactly. Again, good luck for the next few days.
Yeah.
We're all with you and all looking forward to you presenting us with 4 or 5 gems.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Good
Okay.
stuff.
Katy, thanks for your time, and we look forward to seeing what we can produce in a few days' time.
Yeah, it's very exciting times.
From the team at Inside Melbourne, it's goodbye for now.